Hey guys, how are you?
Hello.
Hey there.
Hey, what's up, Frank?
Hey Jim, what's happening? How you doing?
Good. Figure I'll give.
You got one of those barn door things in the background there?
Yeah, it's my house.
Yeah, they're cool. I like those. I like those a lot. I'm seeing them more and more, and that's such a nice look.
Yeah, so this is my third floor. You know, house is 110 years old.
Right.
So we rehabbed it, and this is what you'd call the master closet is up on the third floor.
Master closet, I got you.
Old house, small bedroom or small closets.
Gotcha. Tawana, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Did I reply to your email in reference to our buyer over in Afghanistan,
Okay.
Sabrina Hyde?
Okay.
We're going to coordinate with YHT to do it has to be a specific POA. And probably she'll have her dad sign because she funneled some information through her dad to help her with this.
Okay.
That's what we're going to do. But that was a good question to be curious on how that's handled.
Yeah. All right. This is my first closing, so.
Don't mess it up, right? Gotcha.
Exactly.
Hey, Don.
Thank you.
How are you?
Good, thanks.
Sorry, Jim. I used to jumping in on these and just saying hello to everybody. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. I mean, we talked a little bit about stuff to talk about, but
yeah,
just an open conversation,
Yeah. Lina, did you want to give it a few minutes for others?
Yeah, I know there are a few more that said they want to come in, so I would expect there to be probably
10.
Yeah,
Rachel said she'd probably be on it. Rachel Mims.
Roxy's here. That's cool. Ben, you talk to us, Ben?
Hey, what's going on, fellas, ladies?
Hey,
Remember this boot camp on Saturday for command. A lot of fun stuff. So still looking forward to that. To have Connor blowing a whistle at my face all day. I wonder, it's going to be great.
Frank, I just sent another offer today. I forgot to copy you on it, so I'm going to send you an email.
Okay, you put an offer for somebody?
Yes, I'm Ramon.
Ramon. I know that name. Give me a last name.
Tolson.
Yeah, Ramon Tolson. Got it right here. Yeah, when you said that name, I remember because she's a female.
Yes.
And when I spoke to her and she answered the phone and I was like, Ramon?
I know.
Are we missing an A on the end of that? Ramona? She was very sweet though. That's great. Put an offer in. Very cool. She's what type of financing did you put for that?
FHA.
Okay. All right. Now for her, depending on if the seller comes back and gives you little pushback, depending on the price and the taxes, we may be able to get her debt to income ratio in line for a conventional loan. That's if the seller gives you any pushback. But was Ramon also, oh, never mind, forget it. Ramon's looking for the $10,000 grant. That has to be FHA.
Right, because you said it was 60 days.
Yeah, the reason why we asked for 60 days, listen, it could be 45, but we asked for 60 just from dealing with them for so many years. Just put this out there, dealing with the New Jersey Housing Office for so many years, especially now since COVID hit, and they're coming out of the COVID thing. They're starting to more work in the office, but they're also running into an issue. Some people are electing to work from home, and they have some kind of guidance there that says that certain particulars allow some of them to stay working from home. So we have to get a file together for the New Jersey $10,000 grant program. We have to get a file together. Okay. We have to have in the title, the homeowner's insurance, the appraisal, a full file together and submit it to them as clean as possible. Well, after we get it approved by our underwriting and cleared, they
Right.
wanted to submit it to them with everything intact so they can make sure title's clear. They also want to make sure that, hey, we have right numbers here for a debt to income ratio. We're saying homeowners will be about 90 a month, suppose it's 150 because of some circumstances. So
Mhm.
they want to see everything to make sure we have the right debt to income ratio. But when we send a file up there electronically, there have been cases where they looked at it same day, but then there's been cases where they took 10 days to 2 weeks to look at it. That's why we're asking for 60 days, because it's taking 21 days right off the bat just to get an appraisal right
Right. Okay.
now. Yeah, so that's why we asked for 60 days. There are other lenders saying that, oh, we can do it in 45. There are some cases where it can be done in 45, but for the most part, you might be looking at the lender asking you for an extension if you try to do a 45.
Okay.
And that's the biggest red flag for a listing agent or a seller. Like, why do they need an extension? And, oh, we're waiting for the state. What do you mean you're waiting for the state?
So are you actually closing some of the $10,000 grants?
We're closing a lot. Yeah, we're closing a good bit of them. We haven't done, we closed one about a week or so ago. We're closing on average. We're not getting that many of them right now because the listing agents are basically saying, well, I have a cash offer that can close in 2-3 weeks. Or I have 20% down conventional, don't have to worry about an FHA appraiser, don't have to worry about it going to the state. So that's where we're dealing with a situation of the only reason we're not closing that many is because not many offers are being accepted with that program because of just the competition's out there so stiff.
How do you think we can sell it to the listing agent if we have a client that really wants or needs it?
Right. One, hey, we don't need a concession. We're getting $10,000.
Right.
That's one. But it's really, I don't think there's any real angle you can use to sell it, because when you peel back the layers, it's still an FHA loan, in which right now, I mean, how would you like to be some guy, even FHA and VA loans right now, how would you like to be some guy or girl that's coming home from being away 6 months from their family overseas, and decides they want to buy a home, and sellers go, oh, we're not accepting it, VA offers. You know what I mean? It's kind of a little bit of a slap in the face, because there's a myth that the VA appraiser and the FHA appraiser are going to beat up my house. They're going to lowball the value. That guy who does that VA and FHA appraiser is also the same guy who's doing the conventional appraisal. The comps are what they are. The value is what it is. But the caveat that they hide behind is, on an FHA or a VA loan, you have that amendatory clause that says, if this house is not worth what I've agreed to pay, I have the right to come back to you to either ask you to lower the price or pull out of the contract. Now, you can do an appraisal waiver in there, but I think if you ask Ben Dash or any attorney, they might tell you that FHA VA mandatory clause is a federal document. It may stand up in a court of law if it ever got to that point. That's what you have to be careful of. These documents, where on a conventional loan, you don't have an amendatory clause. So the seller's like, why would I want to have to deal with that gray area if I have a conventional buyer? I'll just go with that. That's the reality. But another thing we have to think of too is, with a VA mortgage, a VA appraiser goes out there. If he does not see the values there, he will ask you, he will do a thing called Tidewater. Tidewater is just a term for meaning that, hey, I am not finding the value here. I'm going to give you guys, buyer and seller's agent, 72 hours to provide me some comps that support the sales price. Now, we get them in, we give them to him, he reviews them. A lot of cases, it helps a lot. But that VA is the only one that does that, and conventional doesn't do it, or FHA. So that's why I don't think VA is a bad option. It just, so many listing agents right now are just like telling their buyers, now we're just going to stick to conventional or cash because we don't have to deal with the VA or FHA issues.
So with VA, you're saying that you've got enough, more often than not, appraisers are going to reach out to you prior to sticking you with an appraisal.
Right, that's the requirement. If the appraisal's there, the value's there, you just get the appraisal in from the VA portal. They send it in through the VA portal. But if it's not there, we get a phone call saying, hey, guys, listen, I'm not finding the value. You say it's worth 250. I'm not coming up with that. I can't tell you what I'm coming up with, but you need to get me some comps to support this 250. And that's where we reach out to you guys to send them over to us. And that's a great thing about VA. They'll give you a chance to get that number there before they turn in a report.
This is that, for those of you who don't know, most do. This is that big document for FHA and VA, the amendatory clause. Well, this is the big important page. I'm
Yes.
assuming everybody can see my screen. So right in here, we're putting in our contract price
Right.
when we go under contract. Now, we have been seeing when they come in low, or I've actually just talked to Tay about this yesterday. What's the deal with when it appraises low, the lender's coming back and asking for this to be a mandatory clause to be amended?
Well, that's if what's happening is if the seller agrees to lower the value, we need an addendum and a new mandatory clause.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, an addendum for the new price and a new mandatory clause reflecting that new number. That's where we are on that. And that one document is what's giving the listing agents and the sellers the mindset that we don't want FHA or VA offers because of that document. And we think they're going to say, oh, we have to replace this or that, or fix my peeling and chipping paint, or put handrails on steps of 3 or more. There's so many different things that come into play where a lot of people are just under the impression that it's just a taboo thing right now, which I don't think it is. But it unfortunately, when you're going 35,000 over list price, that document that says, oh, if it doesn't appraise for our contract price, I want you to lower your price. They're like, well, a cash deal doesn't do that, or a conventional loan doesn't have that document. So I don't want to have to deal with that issue when that appraisal comes in, because that's just the X factor that can blow everything up. Now I got to put the house back on the market after it was off the market for 3 weeks.
So if a buyer's going to be 3.5% down FHA, why wouldn't they go conventional? 3% or 5% down?
That's a great question, because with an FHA mortgage, for example, once your credit score is under 700 on a conventional loan, you're paying a higher rate and your PMI is higher than the FHA PMI. So the FHA becomes a better transaction for you because it gives you a cheaper payment. But also, a lot of times we have to use FHA is because the FHA has an expanded debt to income ratio, meaning that you can go up to 55% of the monthly income. Conventional is 45%. So what that means is that if you're making $5,000 a month, you have another 10% room in that debt to income ratio, which is $500
a month.
A month, $500 for a mortgage. You're talking about $100,000 plus in purchase price. So the FHA will help your buyer get that higher priced house. And ironically, everything's a higher priced house right now because of the bidding wars.
So
that's where FHA helps.
That borderline is about 700 credit score.
Right. There's also credit caveats too. You had a bankruptcy, 2 years discharge, you're okay on FHA. Conventional is 4 years. If you had a foreclosure, FHA is 3 years outside of that foreclosure, you're eligible again. Conventional is 7 years. So there are caveats here that really, really make a difference.
Let's talk a little bit more about that DTI.
Yeah.
If you don't mind. So can you explain what that is?
Yeah, debt to income ratio means that we're going to take the new mortgage payment and whatever your monthly debts are, and that's X. That X can't be more than 45% of your monthly gross income, not your take home pay, your gross income on, so if your monthly gross is say 10,000, the new mortgage and your debts that you have, student loans, car loans, credit cards, can't exceed more than $4,500 a month. That's including the new mortgage payment. With FHA, you can go to $5,500. It's a big difference. It's $1,000. That's a very big difference. So that's why a lot of people will qualify for FHA. will need to go FHA to get the house price that they want. I want that 350 house, not the 280 house, because the 350 house has the fourth bedroom. I need 4 bedrooms and 2.5 baths, not 3 bedrooms, 1.5 baths. So the FHA will step up that debt to income ratio to qualify them for that.
So I feel like this is important because we've been talking about this a lot, this whole debt to income thing and that borderline between being conventional and FHA. So let's run this scenario out that you just talked about
Okay.
on a piece of paper.
Okay.
So your monthly income,
Say 10,000.
10,000. And that's total. That's your total gross income before taxes. You get $10,000 a month from your job at wherever.
Yeah, and it's realistic. It'd be a couple. They each make 5,000 a month. This is a couple.
Okay.
Now, say if they had, let's do conventional.
Okay.
Debt ratio is 45%, which means their monthly debt can't be, with the new mortgage, can't be more than $4,500. Okay.
Okay.
So I just put maximum mortgage and debts $4,500. Okay. Now let's do it. Let's do a line says FHA. FHA mortgage debt ratio is 55% a month. And then the maximum mortgage and debts is $5,500. So there's $1,000 difference there, okay? So you have to look at this and say, if we use on general, say each $1,000 is $4.50 per month. If you take $1,000 and divide it by $4.50, that's $222,000 more in buying power for FHA versus conventional. And you would say, well, that's a lot of money, $5,500 a month. Okay, 2 car payments, $600 a month each.
Right. So maximum mortgage payments and debts
and debts. This is mortgage payment and debts.
To come up with your maximum monthly mortgage payment, if you made this much money, you would do 5,500 minus your 600 a month for each car, so $1,200 a month for your $1,000 a month for your cars.
All right, say another $400 a month for credit card payments. Everybody has them. Say another, say $600 a month for student loans.
Okay.
All right, and if you have child support, that counts in it. But the reality is, you're talking about taking $1,900 off. You're taking $2,000 off that, so that equals $3,500 for a mortgage payment.
So this is for this example here. If you have 2 buyers making a total of $10,000 a month, and they wanted to go, they could, in theory, could afford a payment. The bank would give them a payment, allow them to buy a house with a payment of up to $3,500 a month.
That's for FHA.
For FHA.
Now come up here, right? Do a drop. Yeah, come up a little higher, right there. Do a space. Now that comes out to 30. That comes out to. I'm sorry. Well, no, it's 4,500 is your max.
Right.
Right. So now it brings you to 2,500. The difference between a $2,500 mortgage payment and a $3,500 mortgage payment is a couple $100,000 a year, a couple $100,000 in purchase price. So that's where the FHA gets you, a $3,500 payment versus a $2,500 payment.
So you can see why right now so many buyers that are low down payment are going that FHA route.
Yes.
A lot of times it's just because of this. It's just because that a little bit more in payment gets you a lot more in a house because interest rates are so low.
Yeah,
right?
It really does. It really does. And, there's a big difference there. I mean, even if it was $5,000 a month in income, that's $500 a month differential. That's $100,000 in home. And right now that's huge, $100,000 in home. That's going from a townhouse to a single in a lot of cases, or getting into the town where you want to be for the schools. So there are so many different caveats on where your low down payment people are better off with FHA.
Awesome. So what about using a different mortgage company versus Fairway? Is it any different?
No, I will tell you this much. It is, but in the favor of Fairway. We're the fifth largest lender in the country. We're the third largest VA lender. We're number one in USDA, and I think we're number 2 or 3 also in FHA lending. We're direct. We don't have to funnel it through a bank as a broker. So being direct, we access the automated underwriting debt to income guidelines without any overlays. Overlays are, here's an example of an overlay. FHA says you can go up to a 55% debt ratio, but the bank that we get our loans underwritten through, we broker to, they have an overlay that says they'll only do a maximum debt ratio of 48% on an FHA. So that just limits your buyer. We're direct where we have all the underwriting internally. We underwrite internally. All our closing is done internally. We've had closings where, hey, we have to rush this deal. Mike Meyer had one a few years back, I'll never forget it, where we had the buyer, the seller, we were supposed to close, this was Monday, we're supposed to close on Friday. Mike called me and said, the seller's elderly, they just admitted him to hospice. If he doesn't make it till Friday, this deal is dead because now the house goes into the family trust. And he said, so we have to figure this out. Can we get it closed? So I got in touch with the buyers. I think it was the daughter or the son who was handling stuff with the buyer. He was terminally ill with cancer. And we were able to get the last couple things in, get it clear to close, and have docs and a wire that Monday on the spot.
That's the power of being able to, because you're a big company doing things, essentially, you can make decisions like that where another company might not have the authority to do that.
Right. Most companies are like, oh, once we get the clear to close, it's 48 hours. Now, what happens is, what our system, the way our system works is, the initial closing disclosure goes out a week prior to closing. So we don't ever have to worry about, oh, did that initial CD go out? So we don't have a TRID problem. TRID is that guideline where initial CD has to go out, and then you can close 3 business days later. Ours go out. We set our system up, our program up to have them going out for the most case a week in advance. Now, once that's signed, the file's already in with our closing team. They know the closing date. They're already preparing closing documents and instructions for the title company, but they don't release those into the title company until we're clear to close. Once we're clear to close, everything is communicated with title, numbers are balanced, docs are sent out, and on a purchase, we send our funds the day before. So if you have a 9 a.m. closing and we send the funds the day of closing, chances are they're not going to hit the title company till noon or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So we send them the day before. So when you get the closing, your funds are already there.
This is really important. It was Christina Perez, who I think is going to be on here. She's not now. She just had a buyer buy house. Buyer used some random lender or whatever, and their closing was like 4 hours. So yes. They were waiting for a wire. Everybody hates that. So yeah. It's really, ultimately, this is just another reason to use a lender that, and trust. That it's just a great example. Having that wire in there the day before means when you're done closing and everything's signed, you can leave.
Right. What we are doing on June 28th, we're having a training at Fairway. We have an e-close department now, where our e-close department will contact the borrower, set up a call, a Zoom call with the borrower if they have Zoom capability, and do the closing electronically with them the day of settlement. Go over the settlement statement, go over all the docs. So when they walk into the title company, they're only wet signing a few documents and handing in their check, and it's done in 10 minutes.
Awesome.
The settlements will now be 10 minutes because they're just walking in to sign the couple state required documents by pen, which is mainly the mortgage document. The mortgage and the note, for the most part, are still required in New Jersey to be signed by pen, unless that recently changed and I wasn't given the update, which I will get on June 28th, which is, I think, Monday, right? Monday. So, but we're going to be doing e-closes, and we have the e-close concierge desk. They reach out to the parties and say, hey, let's schedule your e-closing for your day of closing. They'll do this a few days in advance. If you don't have Zoom on your computer, here, we're going to email you a link to download it. And let's just do it. Let's do your e-close. So when you get the settlement, you're in and out just by tendering a check and signing a couple documents. And they even go through those documents that's going to sign by paper, by pen. So when they walk in there, they're just like, okay, where's those 2 documents? They're signing. Here's my check, and have a great day. So its closings are going to be about 10 minutes once we have this training done. So I figure we're going to probably start that in July, doing all the digital closings, as long as the people have the capability to do it. And there are going to be some.
That's one good thing to come from COVID.
Yeah, absolutely. It has pushed that. It has pushed that end of our life about 10 years in advance. All the electronic stuff going on.
So,
Hey, Frank.
Yeah.
How new is e-closing? I didn't mean to cut you off, Jim. Sorry. How new is e-closing?
How do you do an e-closing? Okay. Basically, you know
How old is
new is it?
e-closing? How new is it?
It's been around with our company for about 6 months. Maybe even a little longer. They've been testing it out, probably with an e-close. A lot of the states are not cool with it. You know what I mean? They have different guidelines. Different documents have to be signed by pen. It's not a universal thing. So it's all
Right.
there's state guidelines you have to comply with. We've been doing it about 6, 8 months, maybe a little longer, throughout different regions of the country. Now our CEO says, hey, listen, even though we're out of this COVID thing and we've been pushing as much as we can, we've got the green light to do this nationally. So that's why we're doing the training on June 28th, because if you can walk in the closing with your client, they just have to sign 2 docs, hand the check, collect the keys, and they're done in 10 minutes. And that makes your life a lot easier to go sell more homes.
So Rachel's had her hand up.
Yes. Rachel?
Yeah. Hello, can you,
Hey.
hello,
Hey.
hey guys, sorry. So, can I use a personal experience, Frank, since, cause I work easier that way when I think about the clients like that,
Yes.
what they were approved for already, rather than like just examples. But so if I had this, okay, so someone like the buyer that I have from New York who, well, no, she didn't get approved yet, but someone that I got approved for got an FHA loan, but they had their own lender.
Mm-hmm.
And they got approved for a very low number. It was like under 100K.
Right.
For them to go conventional, because they're FHA, they would probably not get approved for much then. If
It's
it
going to
was
go lower. It's going to go
yeah,
lower. Yeah.
okay,
It'll go
I get
lower,
that.
yeah.
Now.
By the
But
way, your client's Latoya Turborg?
The one from New York?
Yeah. Yes. Nick, who's my son, he's an loan officer as well. Nick's working on the pre-approval, and that should be out to you shortly. We're just waiting for some income docs from her.
Okay.
Excellent credit. She's ready to go now. I would.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
I would impress on her. Hey, listen, let's put it this way. The reality is rates are going to go up.
Okay.
And for every 1% they go up, you lose about $10,000 to $30,000 in buying power. The reason why it's a slide rule because it depends on where the taxes are. So now it's not a bad time to do this. I think right now that window of low rates is closing. You see everything that's going on in the Fed about higher interest rates, higher that. Right now the bond yields, they're going to go up. They have to. They're going to go up. So if you're an investor, buy your bank stocks today. That's because when the bond yields go up, the banks make more, and these bank stocks are going to run.
Okay.
$20,000 of purchasing power, Rachel, for example, means if she's approved to buy a $250,000 house today, and rates go up 1% over the next month or 2 months, she would only be approved for $230,000.
Wow. Yeah.
Months.
Yeah.
It's going to make a difference. Now, here's the problem. Even though the rates are going to go up, you might think, oh, the rates are going to go up. The market will cool off. The home prices will come down. No, we're still going to have that inventory problem, and the prices are going to hold.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then someone like that other buyer I had, Kathy, someone like her, that was conventional. Cause I'm trying to get that correct. All that. That was
Kathy's last name.
That was the one from Haddonfield.
Okay. I'd have to look it up. Right now, I'm working on around 30 pre-approvals that are in process.
My question was, she was approved for, because I have a similar situation now. She was approved for, I think you said she was approved for,
like
she could go up or down.
Correct. I remember her
Okay.
now. What's her last
Okay.
name, Cohen?
Levy.
Kathleen Levy. Okay.
Yeah.
I see it now all the way down. Yes, I sent you a pre-approval on her. She had the option to do a lot.
Okay, up or down. So when you get
Correct.
people like that, it doesn't really matter when it comes to, you want to get them as soon as possible because interest rates are low. But
Right.
with that type of person, their credit score is good. They don't really have a lot of debt, so they're pretty good to go.
They're good to go. Here's the thing to keep in mind about pre-approvals. Just to give you a little background. A pre-approval is not worth the paper it's on if we don't verify what their income is. With
Okay.
pay stubs, with W-2s. I've had people say, oh, I make, like $2,200 a month. That's what they take home. Their gross was $3,400 a month, which is a big difference in qualifying. So we need to see the pay stubs because it might be child support on the pay stub. That's a debt that counts, that customer approval. So if I talk to somebody and they submit a file today, but 3 days go by, 4 days go by, and you don't have a pre-approval letter yet, it's because we're waiting on the documentation to back up the pre-approval. Because once we give it out to you, it says they're going to get a loan. But if we don't have the documentation to back that up, once we get the documentation, I make $4,000 a month, but $2,500 is commission. So you just started this job 4 months ago. We can't count your commissions if it's less than 2 years. So there's a lot of different caveats. That's why pre-approvals don't happen instantly, because we need to get documentation just to back it up. So you're out there representing yourself with a real bona fide buyer. But you'll see some pre-approval letters come across. I'll say to the people, listen, you qualify for X. What's that payment going to be like? Well, about $3,200. Oh, no. I'm only comfortable with $1,800 a month. So then I will go ahead and mitigate that pre-approval letter to meet where they want to be. So they don't cross over and then have you put an offer to have to retract because, oh, I didn't know it was going to be $2,000 a month. Well, if I give them a pre-approval letter with parameters for sales price and taxes that meet their payment range they want to be in, that'll keep you out of trouble or from wasting time for making offers on properties that once they see the payment, they get sticker shock and pull out of. Now, you just took a house off the market and 18 other buyers lost out on a fictitious offer.
At the end of the day, what do our clients really care about? The buyers. They care about their monthly payment.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I tell them when I talk to them, hey, this is like buying a car. You go drive that car and it's amazing. It's got all the bells and whistles you like. What's the first thing you ask the salesman? What's my monthly payment going to be? And that's the same thing with a home. I always tell the people, call me if you have questions about what your payment is. You see a house you like, call me. You might see this townhome, you love it. Oh, it's $250. Taxes are $4,500. Yeah, but what about the $275 HOA fee? So I have to go through that with the people just to make sure that you're working smarter, not harder. You have a real buyer. So
We just talked about this, Rachel, with the
HOA 250
Yeah.
pushed it up and she couldn't. Yeah.
Oh, there's HOAs that make people not qualify. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
if you
we
have a
see-
buyer that's close, that's on the border, and an HOA fee, especially around here, some neighborhoods could be $400 a month HOA.
Yeah, and that's why I do a lot of, hey, if you see a house you like before you put the offer in, let's go through payments. You know what I mean? Let's run over payments. Let's see where they are, just to make sure that you're going to be comfortable with this. This is not for 4 or 5 years like a car. This is for 30 in just about 99% of the cases, it's a 30-year term. So you have to make sure that you're going to be comfortable with this. You love the house, you love the house, you love the house. After 6 months of struggling, you don't love the house much more. That usually leads to a foreclosure down the road at some point.
I love this because this is a perfect example of why Frank is a part of our team. And when the buyer asks you, well, what's my payment going to be? You don't know as well as Frank's going to be able to really know and be able to run their numbers and figure out the payment.
Yeah, and that's the important thing. It really is, because you have a lot of people that look at it and go, yeah, but there's other factors that really kill deals in people's minds. I got this plan. I went from paying nothing living at home to paying $1,800 a month, but we're gonna have to start paying daycare soon, and that's another $1,000 a month. Different little things creep into their minds. That's why most of the smart people will not stretch that pre-approval as much as you can go. they'll back it down a little bit, give a buffer in case they need to get a new car. Or if they have a child and have to start paying childcare. I even had people say, hey, listen, just pre-approve us on this one salary because we're going to start a family and childcare is so expensive, she or he or whoever may stay home and raise the kids because it's not worth it to go to work 40 hours a week and to give all your money to childcare. So now somebody else is raising your kids and you're not financially benefiting from it. So there's so many different factors that I've seen in 32 years doing this.
Tawana, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just want to make sure Tawana gets your question in.
Yes.
Okay, so basically my question is actually kind of what you're talking about, but I do have two questions. The first question is, I have a buyer, she's approved for 250K. So, you know, like she's looking at homes that's like 240. So I'm just trying to understand like, what's the cushion? Because I don't want to get her at her max. So
Well,
where
you know,
are you?
it depends on the buyer. I mean, there's some buyers that are, you know, if I say, here's your max and you're comfortable with that payment, that's fine,
Okay.
you know? But, you know, 250 in Pennsauken,
Mhm.
maybe it could be 310 in Browns Mills because
Right,
the taxes are so vastly different.
right.
So we have to look at taxes, HOA, we have to look at taxes. They're the two things that kill deals. You know, like I said, you know, 250,000, you're going to pay maybe $350 a month in taxes in
Mhm.
Browns Mills. But
Right.
you run that over to Pennsauken, you could be $650 a month.
Right.
So that $300 a month just took away $60,000 if you use $5 per thousand of your buying power.
Right. And I think another concern is, especially in this market, like if you have to bid over.
Well, yeah, you have to bid over. That's basically
Right.
it. So if I'm telling you your client's approved for 250, I would cut that down by 10% on your search.
Okay.
Go to cut down, take 10% off the top. So you start looking for 225. I tell you 400, 350, 360. Of course, you know you're going to have to go over it. If you look at 400 listings, you got to go 440 or 430. Now you don't qualify.
Right.
So
And
you have to do a 10% haircut right off the bat.
right. And I'm trying to explain to her too,
Mhm.
like you're going to have to bid over if it's something that you want.
Right.
No. And then, go ahead.
Now I was going to say, Jimmy, you'll back this up. There's a lot of agents out there that are like, hey, this is probably $300,000 home. Let's put it out there for 290 and stir a whole bunch of interest and a whole bunch of people coming in and bidding it. And then they're going to be like, oh, 301, oh, we'll go to 303. 303, we'll go to 310.
Mhm.
Somebody that said 310 with deep pockets maybe just sold the house and has a ton of cash coming in. I'll go to 325. I don't care. I want the house. We had a circumstance in Princeton. House was 960,000, ended up at 1.2 million. The guy
Wow.
was walking in with cash. He didn't care. I want the house. It's on the street. It's in the school district I want to be. It's on the street I want to be on. I don't care. Here's the money. I'm going to be here for the next 20 years. At that point, it doesn't matter. You know, of course, when people have deep pockets, it's just another shopping spree for them in some cases.
Right.
So two, you know, if you want to call them scripts here, just ideas to discuss with your clients. Some people just have a thing about paying over ask. Well, one thing that Frank touched on is that agents are purposefully listing houses low to create these bidding wars. So that's number one. So they're purposefully listing them below what current market value might imply they should sell for.
Mhm.
And number two is, yeah, you might be paying over ask now, but let's have that interest rate conversation. Let's talk to Frank about what your payment would look like a year from now if interest rates went up 1 or 2%.
Right.
Your payment's going to be so substantially higher. You're going to be spending money on interest that you would have been better off paying more for the house now.
So then my next question is, when it comes to VA and FHA, I know
Yes.
there's been some discussion about townhomes and condos and things like that.
Okay. All right. Here's the thing. FHA townhomes. If you have a true townhome where it's considered to be a PUD, planned unit development, and the key to all of this is who owns that ground. If you buy that townhome and you own the ground, now you know it's zoned. It's basically zoned as a planned unit development. It's not a condo. And the reason why I say that, planned unit developments where they're townhomes and they're fee simple and you own the ground, they do not have to be on an FHA or VA approval list. When you have a condominium, that's a true condominium. I have to look up the FHA portal to make sure that that is on the FHA approved list. And Jimmy, you're quick. God, I love that.
You can literally Google it. So
Yeah.
if you want to know, and never trust the listing agent
No.
because
No,
they
no, 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 no,
expire.
no, no. Right. Oh,
So-
my seller has an FHA mortgage, so it must be good. But they could have got that 5 years ago and it could have expired 2 years ago. So you have to make sure that that condo is on the FHA approved list. Now with the VA is so vastly different. I would say 9 out of 10 condo projects are on the VA approved list. Right now, about 3 or 4 out of every 10 condo projects are on the FHA approved list because it's just a vastly different guideline for getting approved.
Can you
Or
say that
VAs.
again, Frank?
With the VA, I would say about 9 out of 10 condo projects are on the VA approved list. Maybe
Okay.
3 or 4 out of 10 condo projects are on the FHA approved list.
And why is that? Why are so many FHA condos they might have been approved in the past and now they're not able to renew?
Because it's the requirements of the documentations and the financials that are required. And the financial solvency of the association has to meet a rigid FHA guideline. With VA, it's very lenient. They just have to file for approval. They don't have to submit a whole bunch of financials and different types of paperwork. So in other words, you're going through a stiffer rigid regimen to get FHA approved, where VA is just like, just file the paper. We don't care.
Now,
Just as long as you file the paper, you're good. But with the FHA, they want to review your paperwork and make sure it meets their guidelines.
I just want to mention that, Frank, you're talking specifically about that FHA condominium almost as a business for the whole condo association.
Correct.
They have to
Absolutely.
submit documentation, financials. They can't be in lawsuits, all different types of things.
Right.
In
You
order
can't-
to,
Yeah, the key with condos, and Jimmy, you're right. You can't be a defendant in a lawsuit. One, that'll get you killed for conventional right up there. You can't have more than 15% of the unit owners delinquent on their fees. They're the keys. And then you also have a certain budget where they need to have a certain amount of money set aside in their reserve. I don't know how they calculate it. There's a calculation I use, but if that reserve should be $100,000 and the association only has 40, not getting approved by FHA.
so things to note for sure with the whole condo
Right.
thing. So
Also, one thing Jimmy and I were talking about, when you're making offers, copy me on them. Or say, hey, would you reach out to the listing agent? I mean, I have some of the bigger agents that are, more experienced, more seasoned agents that will say to me, hey, would you reach out? And I can tell you there's been cases, like I said, Mike Myers, Lindsay Banks, Cecilia Still, some of the agents in the office that I work with, that will tell you that they'll see a pre-approval letter from me at Fairway, and they'll see a pre-approval letter from other lenders that they don't know. And they'll lean towards my pre-approval letter because they know who I am from being in this marketplace for 32 years. And they've worked with me in one capacity or the other, whether they had a listing and it went together smooth, or I had their buyer. So I will reach out to an agent. We had one with Amy Ryan, with Kathy Hellings was the listing agent. Kathy said, you weren't the highest offer, but we took your offer because my seller has to sell and you're working with Frank Garramone. I work with Frank Garramone. And I told my seller, take this offer if you want to sell and not have to worry about it. And it's actually closing today.
So I just want to take a second to reiterate how important this is. And when we have buyers that are coming to us that are pre-approved with somebody else, this right here in this market is why they need to be using Frank or at least another local reputable lender, so that when you make that offer, make sure you're copying Frank. Make sure that you're asking Frank to reach out to listing, because chances are he knows a listing agent.
Right, and you know what? It's a thing too, where it's as simple as, hey, most listing agents are looking for local lenders so they can reach out and speak with the lender if there's an issue. But also, you may get a better deal. You may get a lower rate or better, lower closing costs. It doesn't hurt to get that other opinion. Then you go to Cherry Hill Nissan to check out that new Maxima. Then you go to Turnersville Nissan to check out the new Maxima. And see who's going to give you the better deal. Why not do that for your mortgage?
Dawn, you still have a question?
Yeah, just quick. So Frank, so when you're talking about the monthly payments and all that, so you meet with the potential clients and you go over all this with them and you're telling them all these things about how HOA and taxes and all that can affect this. And you're just discussing this with them while you're doing the pre-approval letter?
Well, 99% of times it's been over the phone or a Zoom call.
Yeah,
You
that's
say, hey,
fine.
listen, I'm reviewing your file and, I ask, what are you looking for? What kind of property you want? Oh, I want a condo. I don't want any maintenance. I don't want any problems. I'm hardly there because I work so many hours. Okay, cool. Gotcha. Well, where are you looking at? What area? What's your price range? So, once I give it a price range, I pretty much, from just being around for so long, I'll know what like general taxes to use, what general condo fee to use. On general, when I hear it's a condo, I'm going to put $250 in there a month. But if that condo is $400,000 or more, I'm putting in $375 a month. So there's different little factors that I use that make you work towards it.
Uh-huh.
And I may not pre-approve you up to the maximum debt ratio. I'll pre-approve you on a conventional up to a 43 debt ratio. Because if you find something that's a little higher, I have a little slack to get you into that.
Okay. But all this
And
is
that
being,
helps.
and all this is being discussed with the client so they understand the whole
Always.
plan and
Yeah.
the
Absolutely.
why
Yeah.
you're doing what you're doing.
Well, and I asked the question, hey, I can do 2 pre-approvals for you. 1, here's your max, or 2, I can give you your max pre-approval, but I'm going to let you know what your real numbers are to keep you in your payment range. I had people say to me, oh, I'm going to be around $800 a month. All right, once we factor in taxes, PMI, because you're not putting 20% down, and homeowners insurance, you can buy a $30,000 home because you don't have much room left in there after the taxes, the
Right.
PMI, and the insurance eat up that $800 a month.
Right.
So in that case, they're like, no, $800 a month. They're like, look, I'll pre-approve you, but you're not going to find anything at this point in time for, 40, 50,000.
Right.
You'd be surprised how many times that happens.
Yeah.
So I go over the stuff with them, and on their behalf, a lot of times they'll ask me, wow, I'm pre-approved that high. I'm surprised. What does a mortgage payment look like at that high? And then they either laugh or they go, oh, no way. No. Here's where I want my payment. Okay,
Right.
if that's where you want your payment, here's the price range you need to look at. Don't go test drive the Mercedes when you can only buy the Hyundai.
So
That's the key. You don't want to show them Mercedes Benzes when Hyundais is what they're going to be buying.
kind of segueing off this before Tawana asks her question, if that's cool, I wanted to go into another scenario. Stefan, can you talk?
Yeah.
So go ahead. I don't remember if this buyer was pre-approved for you or not, Frank, or what the deal was. But
So I had a buyer that he got pre-approved. His credit score was like a 500. He got pre-approved through some other company I never heard of before. I wound up having him get another pre-approval from another lender, and they said they couldn't even do anything with it. But I went back to his original lender, and he said that they had an underwriting, and they said everything was good.
All right, here's with a 500 credit score.
Yeah, with a 500 credit score.
so he's approved for VA. Is it VA?
For VA, yes. He's a VA.
Is it a 500 or a 580? Do you know?
He has a 500 flat.
Wow, that's surprising to me. Honestly, I know VA has a threshold down to 580. Let's put it this way: Veterans United, who's one of the bigger VA lenders, they're at 640. You can't be below 640. We're at 580 on VA, so I am not sure who's doing that loan for him out of 500 credit score VA. I'll be
Right.
honest with you.
So that doesn't sound like good business.
That sounds like to me that what they're telling you may not be 100% accurate, to be honest with you, Stefan. Yeah, that's where you hear these stories. I thought everything was good. What do you mean we can't close the loan? There's some overzealous loan officers. I know there's a lot of them out there. They'll say, "Oh, give me. Let me see if I can get the deal to go through." Then they look like a hero. Well, the problem is this: if the deal doesn't go through, there's so many other people that they can deal with. But it kind of messed up your plans on cashing that commission check. Two, now you got to deal with the listing agent or talking to the seller and explaining to them what the heck happened. But I can tell you that if that goes through, awesome. But I'm skeptical, and I know for a fact that us and the other, we're the third largest VA lender. Us and the other two VA lenders do not do anything under 580 with a VA. So I'm surprised that somebody else that's not as big and doesn't have the buying power of VA can do that.
Right. It sounded crazy to me too.
Yeah. And you know, there's a lot of brokers out there. Listen, you have to realize too, you know, there's caveats. Oh, you can go down to this credit score, but here is the overlays. Can't have had any more than one time 30 days late in the last 12 months. Well, how do you think you get a credit score under 600? By having a bunch of lates in the last 12 months.
Yeah.
So right there, it knocks you out of the box.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's a scenario. Listen, if they say they can do it, and it was underwritten, I would ask for a copy of the underwriting commitment letter immediately, because that will prove to you whether or not it actually has been underwritten or not.
And then should I run that by you or like a other qualified lender?
No, you can
Just
run
to
it by
go
me.
over it.
I don't see any reason. I texted you, Stefan, but I mean, I don't see any reason why you can't forward that pre-approval to Frank and dig
Yeah.
more into it, because I'd hate to see your buyer end up getting screwed and you,
Yeah.
because
Right.
it sounded odd to me as well. But anyway, so lots more questions. Dawn, do you still have a question? Well, I think Tawana's up.
No, I don't.
Tawana?
Yes, I'm next. Thank you. So Frank, okay, so I have an inspection coming up tomorrow. It's with a VA loan,
Okay.
but now I'm concerned about the appraisal.
Inspection or appraisal?
Well, no, I'm concerned about the appraisal because I'm wondering, in your experience, what are you seeing as far as the appraisals not coming in and the buyers going back to the sellers to see if they will lower the price?
Right. Well, you know, we're having some issues with some appraisals. A very low percentage compared to other lenders who I know and I'm friends with and I talk to. Doing this for 32 years, you get to know a lot of loan officers with other companies, and you bounce ideas off each other, or even reach out to them and say, hey, can you do this? I can't, you know? Right now, I'm working on one for Ashley Augustine. I'm waiting for an answer. We put in a reconsideration of value. But what you have to realize is I want to kind of like just simplify it, where unless that listing agent was real savvy and listed it for lower than what it's worth, you're out there and you do your CMA, you do your research and say, okay, your home is worth 300, let's list it for 300. But then you sell it for 340. How can you realistically think that that's 100% going to appraise? You have to expect that we're going to have an issue, because if it was worth 340, you would have listed it for 340. But where we have to change the mindset of the seller is, look, they're offering it 340. We listed it for 300 because that's what the market says it's worth. If we get 315, that's 15,000 more than what you thought you were going to get. You know what I mean? You have to change the mindset of like, hey, don't get fixated on that unless it was cash, okay? Or the people gave you an explicit appraisal waiver. Because right now I'm saying appraisal waivers, but as long as it doesn't go below X, you know what I mean? So you have to you kind of have to gear your seller to realize that if you're going above list price and they accept that offer, anything above what we listed it for is a bonus. So if we don't get that full list, if we don't get that full sales price, you got more than what we listed it for, that's bonus money for you. And you know, like I said, with the VA, your VA appraiser, if it comes in short, is going to do that Tidewater thing where he's going to say, hey, I'm not seeing the numbers, get me some comps to verify that number. Now, on a conventional loan or an FHA loan, you can always ask for reconsideration of value. Send me 3 comps. Buyer's agent, send me 3 comps. Seller's agent, send me 3 comps. Here's a copy of the appraisal. Don't use any of the same comps on the appraisal. Send me 3 different comps each. We'll get it in there and try to see if we can maybe convince the appraiser that his number is not correct.
Okay. And thank you, Frank. And Jimmy, a question for you. When we're doing offers and we're working with VA clients, can we put in that Tidewater clause?
I mean, I wouldn't add it as a clause, but you could certainly educate the listing agent whether it be over the phone or as part of your offer on what that means.
Right.
Or expect that Frank will too. You could copy him on it and be like, hey, I wanted to, just so you know, I don't, the only thing is you already know this, some agents have an ego.
Yeah.
And so you have to be careful about how you come across about trying to teach them about something. They're going to feel like, well, I already knew that. Why are you?
Got it. Okay. I didn't even think about it that way, but thank you. I appreciate that.
And Jimmy's 100% correct. You do have some agents that will basically size you up just for the fact that they've been in it longer than you.
Okay. And plenty of them have been, so I will shut
I'm
my
not saying that you shouldn't do that, because I do think it's important. A lot, you can be in the business 20 years and not remember to say, oh, you know what, that's true. At least we know the VA appraiser is going to give us a shot before we have to do a full ROV, which is that reconsideration of value.
Okay, so
So-
probably like a text or phone call.
I would just put it in as, I don't know. Well, talk about it next time you make a VA offer. I'm sure we can
Okay.
come up with some nice language that's not going to put anybody out.
Right.
As like a little about, in that about the mortgage paragraph that we're doing in all the offers.
Okay.
Just being like, yeah. So,
All right. Thanks.
Rachel.
Yeah, and it's these appraisers, they're under the gun too. They don't want to kill deals. They don't want to kill deals, but you have to realize when they submit this file and their name and license is on it, and an auditor pulls that at the FHA or the VA or even at Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac and goes, John Smith, how do you come up with a 330 value when our highest seal is 285? This value is inflated. We're not buying this loan. We're not insuring, or FHA and VA, we're not insuring this loan. This appraisal is wrong. So now he just loses his ability to feed his family because his appraisal license gets suspended.
Wow.
So these guys are putting their license on the line, It's like a doctor. That's why doctors' medical malpractice insurance is so high. Hey, Dawn, want to help me with this?
Yeah, I just put in a 12-page application to try to get malpractice insurance, waiting to see how much that's going to cost me. Yeah, exactly right.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they don't have malpractice insurance appraisers.
Right.
It's like, you are not doing a good job. You're not worthy of valuing these properties because this is money. This is the bank's collateral. This is our collateral. If it goes bad, the VA has to pay the claim. If it goes bad, the FHA has to pay the claim.
Right. And another thing I'm hearing too is that VA appraisals take a long time. So what is,
Yeah, they're taking off to 3 to 4 weeks. And we're waiting for
Really?
some in some cases. Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, they're taking 3 to 4 weeks in some cases, and it's really, it's really difficult to, you can't push them.
Okay.
Right. So, you have to realize the VA appraisals, they communicate with the processing department. Me or anyone else who's a licensed originator is not allowed to talk to them. Now, for FHA and conventional, that goes directly through an appraisal management company. And we have to deal with a liaison over there. We can never pick up the phone and say to the appraiser, hey, Mike, what are you doing? Come on, you missed this. How the heck can you miss that? We can't even do that. There's the appraisal independence rule that we're not allowed to call them to try to influence them to appraise a property a specific way.
Okay, so with it taking so long for VA, is there a chance that could mess up, that could blow the deal?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, VA is if you do a 30-day if you do a 30-day transaction with VA, you're running into the risk of getting an appraisal back in time.
Can you issue a commitment for VA without an appraisal being in?
Say that again to me.
We honestly, the New Jersey law says you cannot, you should not, and cannot, or not supposed to, let's put it that way, issue a mortgage loan commitment subject to an appraisal. But sometimes what's happening is, and again, it's another mindset shift that we might need to start exercising, is like, do a contract today, June 24th. Don't put the commitment date for July 5th, because we're not going to have the appraisal back. So you put us in a trap where it looks like we're not performing because we're not giving you a commitment in time. There have been some cases where we put out the commitment saying subject to the appraisal, just because of the fact that the listing end is going, oh, you're going to be out of contract, we're going to cancel. Well, you didn't give us a realistic time frame to do this because we don't have an appraisal yet.
It's understandable. The only
yeah.
thing that I would say, Frank, is that's becoming a big issue. Colin's on here. I don't know if he's still here or listening. This whole like, when's the appraisal going to be back? If it's a
Yeah, I'm
finance
here.
deal.
Yeah,
Yeah, I had an appraisal come back. It was gonna hurt the deal, but they got expedited and it came back quickly, and it was all the difference.
okay. I mean, listen, we can try to expedite everything with the appraisers. They'll tell us, yeah, I'll do my best. You know what I mean? It just depends on the actual appraisal's work ethic.
So it's one of those things where I feel like a lot more agents, and I don't recommend doing this, are asking for forgiveness rather than permission, and they're putting that commitment date really early just in hopes to get in contract and out of attorney review.
Oh, no, absolutely. I got you there. I got you 100%.
But it is really important, and this isn't, I mean, it's important for you, Frank, but you already know this, but for all agents, Frank is right. If you miss that commitment date, there are some lenders that you'll email and be like, the commitment's due tomorrow, and they're like, all right, well, it's a really crappy commitment, so we're not ready to issue it yet. Like, no, you've got to get the commitment issued by that date, because if you don't, the seller can actually terminate the contract. It's usually not going to happen because the seller still wants to sell the house, right? But there are cases, I've had cases, breakups, divorces, issues, can't find a house, whatever, where they would love a free out like that. So just make sure you're paying attention to that. Rachel, you've been wanting to talk.
Yeah, what questions should I be asking my buyers when it comes to just the general stuff? Because sometimes I don't want to just always ask Frank. So I know I wrote down first month mortgage payment. I know that FHA versus conventional. I'm understanding that. And then monthly mortgage payments. If someone, like I had a buyer say they want to pay no more than $3,000 a month for their mortgage.
Right.
They saw on Zillow that this house is $2,500 a month, which Zillow, you know.
Right. Well, you have to be careful. You have to read the fine print. A lot of times these payment estimates are 740 credit score, 20% down.
Right.
And a lot of times they just put the principal and interest on there. They don't put the taxes or the insurance on there.
Yeah.
And what happens if it's in a flood zone? Now you get another $150 to $250 a month.
Okay.
And if you're not 20% down, you're going to have higher principal and interest, but now we're going to have to introduce a monthly PMI in there. So I would say, hey, you know what? That is basically just general raw data. That's not the real payment. You really need to, talk with the mortgage company and get a real payment. Let's get you pre-approved. Let's find out what $3,000 a month gets you based off of your financial picture. If they have to go FHA, that's going to change because of the MIP. If they got 20% down, or if they have 10% down and they have really good credit, we can do the single premium, no monthly PMI that will mold that payment lower. So there are so many different caveats here. The thing about the mortgages, they're like snowflakes. Everyone's different. Every single one is different. So,
and then closing costs is a big one too.
Oh, that's going to change. Here's a prime example. Taxes are $400 a month. Normally, it's 5 months taxes a part of your closing costs. That's $2,000. Taxes are $700 a month. 5 months is $3,500. Your closing costs should change by $1,500. So the closing cost, there is no general factor. Don't go 2%, 3%, 4%. You know what I mean? I had one realtor say, "Oh, I tell the people it's 3%." So on a $150,000 home, your closing costs are not $4,500. They're more. But on a $400,000 home, yeah, there might be 3%, which is $12,000.
So it varies.
It varies. Yeah. Don't use any.
And then escrow,
basic generic factors.
Okay, is escrow 1% to 2%?
No, that's not even a percentage, because like I said, if the taxes are $400 a month, that's $2,000. Taxes
no, Rachel's talking about initial deposit.
Initial,
that has nothing to do with the mortgage.
Okay.
The initial deposit on the closing costs.
We're just saying, like, when you go under contract, what's held in escrow.
The escrow deposit. Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought I'm thinking taxes and insurance. Yeah, the EMD I'm seeing is anywhere from 1% to 2%, but I'm starting to see them higher now.
Have you heard that before?
I'm starting to see them higher. I'm doing a transaction in Sparta, New Jersey, and it's $100,000 down payment on the transaction. The listing agent said, listen, we've had one fall through and we have 6 offers. If you want your offer accepted, you have to put up $50,000 as your deposit.
Wow.
So the buyer called me and I said, I have a guy by the name of Ben Dash. You might want to call him, because that's like, I don't want to get into that, involved with that, give any direction on that, because that is a legal matter. But I
Okay.
would say 1 to 2% is the norm, but they are looking for higher. They're looking for higher in some cases when there's multiple offers. What are you saying, Jimmy?
Yeah, the deposit is definitely, we talk about this a lot, right? It really shouldn't matter. As long as the buyer doesn't breach the contract, they're going to get it back. And as a matter of fact, if they breach the contract, the seller in the state of New Jersey can go after them for more than what they have in escrow.
Right.
So, but yeah, definitely good to make your buyers look serious, to do a stronger initial deposit. But a lot of buyers just don't have a ton of cash and they're not ready to, willing to take that risk. So it depends on the purchase price and all those other factors.
Yeah.
Cash buyers, I mean, we're seeing lots of cash buyers now doing 10%, 20% of the purchase price in escrow as a non-refundable deposit, because there's multiple cash offers on properties now. But I mean, it's not super common.
I'm starting to see listing agents ask for financial source of, I'm going to see your finances. I want to make sure you have the money.
So
Especially if
that's a
you're
good
willing to-
question, Frank.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? So that's something that we're seeing a lot now. Hey, we're going to cover 20,000 in low appraisal. Okay, we're accepting your offer, but it's contingent on you showing us that you've got the assets to do that.
Yeah, I think that's realistic because of the fact that you're making a statement that you're going to do something out of the ordinary. Well, we have to make sure you have the resources to do this. If not, if you don't have it, you're just going to come back to us and ask us to lower the price. So we might as well find somebody that does have the resources and accept that offer. You think like, okay, I have an iffy one here, or I can take a more definite one for a couple $1,000s less. I'll take the more definite one because the iffy one's only going to try to ask me to lower the price anyway because they don't have the money. So they want to see that you have the funds. They really do. I'm starting to see more and more of that.
Right. So
Do you tally in home insurance? That's my last thing, or do you not? That's not even this. This is a different thing. Question.
Do I calculate in homeowners insurance
Yeah.
into the debt ratio?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's PITI. Principal, interest, taxes, insurances. And the insurances are homeowners insurance and PMI insurance and flood insurance if they're required. But the homeowners insurance is required.
homeowners insurance is included in the payment estimate that Frank's giving.
Then the qualifying payment estimate, we have to qualify with the homeowners
When
insurance.
he's giving a pre-approval and he's estimating a cost for homeowners insurance.
Yes, I've been doing, yeah, it's been going up, homeowners insurance. So I've been doing about $100 to $125 a month, depending on the purchase price of the home.
Cool. How fast are your closings right now, Frank? How far should agents be looking to put the date on the contract out? 30 days, 45 days?
I would say it's state grant program, 60 days.
60 days for state grant
yeah.
program. What about just a typical conventional deal?
Conventional or FHA, we can do 30. VA, you might want to go a little closer to 45 because, like Tawana said, these VA appraisers are just taking forever.
So
Yeah.
Tawana, you want to get into that?
Yeah, Frank, I have to tell you, you're really scaring me when you mentioned that about the appraisal, especially with Sabrina's deal going, through now.
Right.
So
That appraisal is ordered. Yeah. I mean, these appraisers, they have a guideline from the VA. I think they have 2 weeks to go out to the property.
okay.
They have a 2-week time span to go out to the property.
Mhm.
Then they have to, after that, they have a little bit more time to prepare the report and get it into you.
Mhm.
And I think that's another week. That's why I'm saying it's taking 3 weeks to get these reports from these VA appraisers.
So should I be concerned about this deal?
No, I don't think you should need to be concerned.
Okay,
No.
so for future, what I need to do is put at least 45 days if I'm dealing with the VA.
Yeah, and if the seller's agent says, hey, why do we need 45 days? So listen, the VA appraisers, they just take a longer time than normal.
Okay.
When is your closing scheduled for this, Tawana?
July 20th?
I want to say It's sometime in July. I can't remember the
Yeah,
exact.
July 20th.
It is,
July
okay.
20th, yeah.
I mean, I would imagine you'll have the appraisal back by then.
I mean, it's ordered. I don't see where we won't have it. I mean, don't
Okay.
be concerned. In this
Okay, like-
industry, there's so many things to be concerned about. Don't be concerned about it until you need to be concerned about it.
Okay, but
Because-
Frank, again,
because
this is my first.
You're not,
so-
you're not gonna look young and healthy for a long time if you keep getting concerned about everything, you know?
Very true.
Yeah, I think with it being my first, I'm just concerned about everything. I want to make sure I cross
Sure.
my T's and dot my I's from beginning.
Definitely have so far.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a lot to do. There really is. But you have people like us and people like your title company, people like Jimmy and whatever support you have behind you. It's not like you're on an island by yourself. You
I know, but sometimes it feels like it. Thanks,
Welcome to
Frank.
real estate. You're welcome.
All right. Kind of want to, don't want to keep this going on forever, but Dawn, do you still have a question you wanted to ask?
Yeah, just quick. So with the ROV procedure, like what's the potential that that's going to get you a higher appraisal? Probably not that high.
I would say it's about 50-50. It's about a 50-50.
Okay.
You have to
How
realize.
do you think Ashley did with her ROV?
Being that it's taking so long, I'm hoping that it means that the appraiser is making adjustments. Two things you got to realize. One, we're going back to the appraiser and saying, you did a terrible job and we're going to prove it by making you raise your number. Well, that doesn't sit well with people with egos, and appraisers have egos, because you go hand them comps and go, hey, use these. So he's like, you're not an appraiser. I am. I know how to do my job. I don't want your comps. You know what I mean? So we're telling somebody, hey, you didn't do your job adequately, and we're forcing you to correct your error. Some people it doesn't sit well with. So no matter what you give them, it may not work. And then there's other people that are realistic and go, yeah, you know what, you're right. I'm going to amend the value based off this information that I wasn't privy to, especially if there were private sales and you have the documentation. It's like, hey, I don't have access to those private sales. So this is this is new information to me, So it's hard to say. I always leave it at 50-50. And right now, I talked to my appraisal liaison this morning at 8:30, and I said, listen, we're waiting almost a week for this revision. What's going on? She says, I put a message out to the appraiser yesterday, and I haven't heard back, and I'm going to put another one out today. So, yeah, I mean, I think for Ashley's, we're overdue for that, and I'm gonna keep trying to see where the heck it is.
The thing that sucks is you're going back to that same appraiser.
We have to, because that's the guy who did the appraisal.
No, I know, I get
Yeah.
it, but that's the
Yeah.
that's the part that sucks. So
And how do you go about doing it? You call the appraisal.
I'd actually
company?
probably send you the email, Dawn, that Ashley kind of helped Ashley prepare.
Okay, cool.
And it's basically in our case we used the value worksheet, and we found 3 other comps and explained why 3 other comps that the appraiser didn't use, and explained why we feel they should be considered in adjusting the value. After reviewing those comps with Ashley, I truly believe that the property underappraised. I'm not saying it should have appraised at their purchase price, but I do believe that there's a gap there. So I'm hoping that the appraiser will at least raise it 10. We're not hoping he's going to raise it. What did it appraise? 30,000 under. We're hoping it'll maybe meet us halfway, and I think that it justifies that. Actually appraised under the list price.
Yeah, I'm just looking for a higher number, at this point.
So basically, you communicate directly with the appraisal company. You say we're requesting a ROV, and you put your.
Yeah, we go right in, we have a portal we go into, and we click request reconsideration of value.
Okay.
And as put your comments here. So I copied and pasted the comments from the email, and upload your additional sales comparable data. And I uploaded the sales comps. And somebody over at the appraisal management department reviews and says, okay, these look legitimate, and then they send that over to the actual appraiser. Say, hey, listen, we're requesting a reconsideration of value based off this information, this data, and these comps that were.
Now, do you upload that value worksheet too, or can you only upload the comps?
No, we upload the value worksheet, but you have to. What happens is the appraisal management department, they have appraisers, they have staff appraisers that review the work that comes in. So they review that value worksheet to determine whether or not it's relevant and will help.
Sure. Awesome.
I mean, there's been stuff that's been uploaded, and they would be like, this is going to hurt us, not help us, so we're going to ditch this. You know what I mean?
I don't want to harp on this low appraisal for Ashley forever, but there are just a couple other things to note here. Number one, the listing agent didn't go to the appraisal. She didn't meet the appraiser. She didn't give the appraiser any comps at all. You know, in my professional opinion, that's not doing a service to the seller. When we have listings, I think it's our responsibility to at least try and meet the appraiser there, not get in their way. 2 minutes. Hey, you know, here's the comparable sales we used to price the house. Copy of the contract. If you have any questions about upgrades, here's a list of the upgrades that we made for you, just so you have easy reference. Have a great night. Goodbye. And the other thing is that listing agent, when this appraised low, she literally just sent over like an angry email with this property appraised for this property, blah, blah, blah. That is not helpful. What Ashley did was, and what the right thing to do is sit down, put your butt into Bright for an hour, get new comps, come up with legitimate data, and act like, hey, I'm just trying to help the situation here, and I'm not coming at the appraiser. So I'm not saying that this is even going to work, but you know. Yeah.
And the comment was made, well, I hate to take the file from you and send it to another lender to get a new appraiser out there. Well, you have to look at the situation when you do that. What happens if there's some kind of collusion going on or between the mortgage lender and the appraiser in some way, shape, or form? That they happen to know each other and say, hey, listen, I need you to come at this number. The buyer can be artificially paying more than what it's really worth, because some kind of nepotism situation going on or some kind of friendship situation going on. And say if that buyer goes 6 months down the road and says, hey, you know, I put $100,000 down on this house. I'm going to go to TD Bank and get a home equity line. We want to put a pool in the backyard. TD Bank says, your house isn't worth nearly what you paid for it. Really? Well, wait a minute, then I get an appraisal done, and then they force me to go to another lender to get another appraisal done. That other appraiser came higher to make the deal work. Was that other appraisal legitimate? And now you have a situation where that's when people get really funky and start calling attorneys like crazy. So you have to look at things analytically. You really do with this. But like I said, we're doing everything we can.
Last thing, Frank, is, hey, I got a buyer. They want to get pre-approved. What do we do? We go on your app? What do we?
You can do a couple things. You can say, hey, I want to share an app that we have, Fairway Now, through Fairway Independent Mortgage. You're co-branded on it. I know I still owe a couple of people co-branding on it. I just been a little behind because of the volume, and I do all that co-branding myself, where I have to do the research of your website and your picture and all that. Or you can say, hey, I'm going to have my lender reach out to you. Send me a text. Hey, Frank, it's Tawana. Client, you know, Rachel does that all the time. Hey, call my client, please. Reach out to my client, and I'll reach out to them, call them, say, hey, I was asked to reach out to you by Rachel Mims from Keller Williams.
Another option, though, Fairway app, and you just click the button at the top right, and you can share it with your buyer.
You can share it with it. Now, the good thing about the Fairway app is now they have you on their phone as well, because you're co-branded on the app.
Yeah, so and that's last thing with that is, well, we talk about this a lot. Get your buyers with a lender you know, because your lender, like Frank, is going to keep them as your agent. So if they're like a low quality lead for you, and you get them on the phone with Frank and they like Frank, he's gonna make sure that they use you as their agent too. Does that make sense? So
yeah, absolutely. I've had cases where they said, another agent has called me and said, hey, you're working with so-and-so, can you send me a pre-approval for them? So I'll be like, okay, give me your information. Then I'll call the agent. It happened with Amber Cruz. Amber, it was one of her family members. I said, hey, Amber, so-and-so called me looking for a pre-approval letter for so-and-so. And she was like, Frank, she's actually my cousin. What the heck's going on? So she called her and said, what are you doing? She said, oh, I just called the number on the name and the number on the sign when I passed by this listing. So I'll call you and let you know if your client's cheating on you. Yeah, it could be just a matter of they didn't know that if you call the agent on the sign and go see the house, that you can't take them in there now and sell them that house. You know, so a lot of people don't know. So that's a way of I try to always make sure I keep your client in your court that way too.
Okay, I know you had mentioned about the app, but I didn't get anything from you. So whenever you get time.
Right, I know. I got your picture and all. I just have to co-brand that puppy.
Okay.
Rachel, you have yours, right?
What I like about the app too is it tells you when they upload docs. It gives you notification.
Yes. It lets you know when they're running calculations too.
Yeah.
So when they're running calculations, because the calculator is very, very accurate. When they're running calculations, you'll get a notification. Hey, so-and-so is running calculations. That's when you call so-and-so and say, hey, got a notification through the app, you're running calculations. What property is it? Let me see if we can go see it if you like it. So it gives you an opportunity to just maybe capture that moment in time and get them, right at the height of it. Yeah, 80% of your business is going to come from 20% of your customers. But if you can spy on your customers and figure out who that 20% is, you got an advantage.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right. Anything else you want to talk about, Frank? I mean, I don't want to cut you short, but you've gone longer than I expected.
No. I'm good. I think we covered everything. But the main thing is that, if you're going to make offers and you want me to talk to a listing agent, maybe just let them know how qualified the buyer is. I'm more than happy to do that.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right,
Okay.
guys.
Hey,
I'll talk
thanks
to
for
you all
having me,
soon.
Jimmy.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
Frank.
Thanks,
I'll
guys.
see you later. Yep.
You guys.
Appreciate the questions.